Okay, so we're talking about chapter 1, lesson 2 right now, and I'm on page 56. So your homework tonight is actually to read through this lesson and take notes, remembering to start with your red headings, and of course there are some blue headings, and take some bullet points along the way. We'll go over them in class to make sure that we have enough information. Along the way, you want to make sure that you either have flashcards or all of your vocabulary into your notes. And you want to make sure that after you read this lesson, that you answer all 4 of these red star headings. So just go over in your head, can I answer them? Do I know the answers to these? And then in class tomorrow, we're going to actually discuss these and make sure that you have the right answers. So you can jot down some notes along the way to see if you know the answers to these. And if you don't, then you should be asking me questions tomorrow in class when you get there. What is speed? I don't get it. How is speed a rate of change? I don't understand. They said blah 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 in the book, but what does that mean? How do I explain that? And so you want to make sure that while you're reading that you come up with questions for me so we can discuss it in class. So you're looking at doing all of the vocabulary. You want to read the whole lesson, chapter 1, lesson 2, and take notes. And you want to make sure that you understand what we're going to talk about tomorrow, which is these 4 red little arrows. And if you have a question for me, you need a list of questions so that I can help you. So let's try. We're going to try one of these together. I'm going to do the first paragraph with you to get you started on how to take your notes. Okay, so I've enlarged the textbook so you can see it, but you should have your textbooks at home with you. I'm going to grab a sheet of paper so I can take notes along and model them. Now our first red heading is, I lost my red pen. Our first red heading is what is speed? Okay, and so I'm going to write chapter 1, lesson 2, notes at the top of my paper. Okay, and then I'm going to put what is speed? And this is the first section that I'm taking notes on. So now I'm going to switch to my other pencil or my pen. And I'm going to try to make sure you can follow my notes and the textbook. So let's read it together. You are familiar with different rates. A rate measures the change in something over a particular length of time. For example, imagine a child who is 104 centimeters tall on her 5th birthday and 112 centimeters tall on her 6th birthday. The rate of change of her height is 8 centimeters for that year. Look at the runner in figure 8. The runner's position is changing. To describe her position, you can use the first hurdle as the reference point and use the to the right as the reference direction. The distance between each hurdle is 10 meters. It takes the runner 2 seconds to move from one hurdle to the next. This means that in 1 second, her position changes by 5 meters. Her speed, or rate of change with time, is 5 meters per second. For every 1 second that goes by, the runner moves an additional 5 meters away from the hurdle. Okay, so we need to take a look and find out what's important. Okay, so we want to talk about speed, and they gave us a definition. They said rate of change of distance with time. Okay, well, that's a good scientific definition, but what does it mean? So go back to their examples. Now, if you take a look at their examples for the birthday, they said if we could make a chart, we could make a little graph, and we could say at 5 years, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, whoops, there should be a dash, 10, 11, okay, and I could make a little chart, and I could do the height, the centimeters, over here, and at 5 years she was one height, and at 11 years she was a different height, and I'm talking about this change. And if you notice, this is also the slope, and what we call slope is kind of rate, or rate of change, how fast you're growing, okay? So our speed is basically our slope in some of our graphs, all right? Now, what we want to do is we want to make sure that her the rate of change is really over. It's kind of like that unit rate that we've been talking about in math. So not only are you going to find what the rise over the run is to give you the slope or the speed, but you want to then take it into per year or per mile. You want to make sure that it's all over 1, okay? So, I would say that you want to make sure that you write down that speed is like your slope, okay, and that it's per 1 year or per 1 second, okay, and that it's like that unit rate. So you want to make sure that you're using a unit rate when you're talking about speed, okay. So that's what I put down for my notes for what is speed. An example of how it looks on a graph and some definitions of what it is. It looks like a slope on the graph. It's the unit rate. It's per 1 year or per 1 second. So even if you got a slope of, 8/4, you want to reduce this to over 1 so that you're talking about single increments. And so this would be 8 divided by 4 is 2. So it's 2/1, and now you're back into your unit rate or per second per year, okay? Now we're going to move on to constant speed and changing speed. And what I would recommend that you do for these is that you read each sentence and you come up with 2 to 3 words from that sentence that you can put down for a bullet point. And then you read the next sentence and you put 2 or 3 words down that you can use as a bullet point and move through the lesson. You're going to do pages 56 through 60, okay? 4 pages. So pages 56 through 60.